You know, there's a lot of great OU podcasts, but there's only one where the horns are always down. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Horns Down Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Griffin here with another episode of the Horns Down Podcast. You know that we have to jump on here and do an instant reaction to every game that Team 130 plays. So tonight we played Houston and we won 16-12. Less than thrilling, less than what was expected. Did not cover. It was a lot. So we're going to address the good, bad, and ugly. And when I say we, I'm joined by my guy, Mr. Chris Mason is on here with us tonight. So we'll be doing an episode, again, just recapping this game and just kind of talking about what we saw. So again, the good, bad, and the ugly. And we're going to do this in reverse, the inverted pyramid, right? We're going to address the ugly. Okay, so just jumping into it. Guys, I'm going to let Mr. Mason be the numbers guy per se. But for me, I'm all about the eye test. We didn't pass the eye test tonight. We have some serious issues. This is not going to be a doom and gloom podcast or whatever the case may be. So if you're coming in here, just know we're going to talk about the ugly, the bad, and then the good, right? So ugly has to be offense for me. You know, my uncle called me, Chris, and he said, hey, he's like, nephew, we got to have a pass rush, our edges, this and that. I said, look, that's a broken record. You sound like a broken record. I get it. At the end of the day, offensively, we got to find an identity. It does not matter if you have your twos in. Does not matter if you have your threes in. We have to find the identity. Offensive line played better in spurts. Kind of felt like it while I was watching an NBA game where teams get down by a lot, but then go on those 10-0 runs, get right back into the game, and then they pull it out down the stretch, right? You just saw them playing really good in spurts. But still no push, still no true physicality. Hell, one of your offensive linemen almost cost you the damn game, right? So you are it's still a work in progress. The inside run is not working because there's not hat on hat. There's just not a lot. Wide receivers aren't necessarily creating a lot of separation. It's good to see some of the young guys get in there and be able to get reps or whatnot. Your tight end play is good, really good at times. Barrett Sharp has to make that catch. But what it all boils down to me is Jackson Arnold has to take command of this offense because they're better than
that. Are we sure?
Let's go to the comments real quick. He said, I would have watched grass grow and paint dry watching this game. I see you, John Russell. Danny says, J.A. needs to be benched. Mr. John says, I don't know when we'll have our next win. Said Latrell is just chewing tobacco all night looking dumb. Okay. Now, it's the second week of the season. We are 2-0, so let's not have too many overreactions. But Mr. Mason, I'll let you go ahead and go.
Okay, well, to state, let's do the Jeopardy category, the freaking obvious, right? I'll take the freaking obvious for 100. And my answer, the question would be is inconsistent, no pace to it, no real rhythm to it. And so, Buzz, what is the OU offense? I'll take us obvious answers for 200. No identity, not emphasizing our strengths. Answer, what is Seth Latrell's play calling? And Arnold that's the worst quarterback performance we've seen in Norman in a long time. Now, I say that, I'm ignoring the Davis Bevel Texas thing, right? Let's just put that in the parking lot to never talk of again. But this is Spencer Rattler in 21 bad football. if this is like a Spencer Rattler bench, like the Nebraska game in 21.
Mhm.
This is that kind of a bad performance. He's missing too many. The offensive line did give him some time to make some plays. He's missing wide open wide receivers. He's leaving the pocket too early. He's inaccurate. Now, I hate the wide receiver rotation Luttrell's using. I don't know why you have Reagans and Thompson out there together, which is what it appeared to be on TV. I mean, Nick Anderson, this important to our offense that it is completely ground to a halt without Farouk and Gibson as alternatives. Was Andrel Anthony out there that much?
No.
I mean, it seemed like it was Burks and Brennan Thompson and Reagans, and I don't remember noting too many other folks. Where's Zion Kearney and Ivan Carrion? This offense has to have a big flanker to function. You can't have three midget wide receivers. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. They're fast guys. They're good, but you can't have just three guys like that. I mean, Arnold's throwing bombs to Reagans. I don't even know how he can see him behind the Houston DBs.
I know for me offensively, I like you said, just to start, there's no pace, there's not enough rhythm to the offense, but there's no pace to it. I'm like, if we're gonna go slow, let's go slow. But if we're gonna run tempo, let's run tempo. But you kind of felt like
it's a hodgepodge. I don't know what we're doing.
We don't have an identity. You kind of felt like you kind of felt at least that like, okay, well, we've been here before with Levy, but
no, Levy had an identity. He knew
what. No. Well, what I mean by that is, I'm sorry for jumping ahead, but what I mean is that at times you felt like you were like, is Levy still in the booth? Because we sure do have 50-second 3 and outs, 1 minute 3 and outs. We're not taking time off the clock, and it's just my uncle called me and this did make me laugh, but it's a good point. It's a valid point. The quarterback lead plays, the quarterback blast, the quarterback power, whatever you want to call those plays, those are now becoming our new Achilles heel, or our new jet sweeps, right?
Although we started the game with a jet sweep again, lost 5 yards, killed that first drive.
Yeah.
The 2 drives before the half, I'm just double checking. We didn't run the ball either of those drives right before the half. When we should have been trying to run some clock, or at least doing some variations of things. It's 3 plays, and then I mean, we didn't run clock at all. I mean, Arnold, did a scramble, but it was strange. I mean, Chris, it's a strange day in college football all over the place. If you watch college, I mean, I talked to a Sooner fan of mine, right before kickoff, and I was like, I'm afraid we're about to see a sloppy, terrible game from OU, because everybody has been playing sloppy, terrible games for the most part. A lot of bad first halves from folks.
And people will get to all of those games here in a little bit. We're gonna,
but I just it was.
No, you're good.
It was just, and then there was you could just tell by when that Bauer Sharp big third down incompletion occurred, right? Because we were set to put that ball in the end zone. If he caught that and we continued that drive, we're going to put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
Probably. It seems like the confidence was there to do that. But that's messed up, and then you didn't run the ball, and you left Houston with enough time to kind of put together that that BS field goal that they did right before the half. I mean, the one thing I haven't addressed here is, Chris, we're a bad Big 12 referee call away from potentially losing this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that guy didn't touch that punt.
For sure. Yeah. The call on the field, they screwed themselves, because the call on the field they couldn't. You couldn't overturn it. But when I'm like, every shot of that, I was like, he never touched that. I mean, the physics of it didn't look like he touched it. The physics of what was going on with the ball didn't look like he touched it. So without that play, I don't know. So it's a goofy. The defense was hung out on the field too long, too many attempts. Obviously, Willie Fritz just took
we watched you watched the UNLV film, all right? That's the film we used, right? And then, but they don't look anything like what they did last week. They didn't scheme. They didn't scheme at all. They just Willie Fritz just took that offensive game plan from UNLV, threw it in the trash, and just came up with a new simpler game plan.
But that's the thing, is that it was a gift and it was a curse for Houston, because by doing that you took away Donovan Smith's the thing that he does best, which is honestly get vertical down the field. That's what he likes to do.
Yeah.
That kid has a big arm, people. That kid has torched a lot of people. We watched him torch Texas last year. One bad call away, honestly, in my opinion, from winning that game. But regardless, though, just to kind of narrowly focus this on the offense, because I think that's where most of the ugly is coming from. We just have to see more continuity. It's obvious, people. We want to see a run game. We want to see Jackson Arnold put up big numbers, throw for 300 plus yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns. We want to see all of that, people. We want to see the offensive line be physical and attack. It's a work in progress, simply because we need to get people healthy. We need to get people confident about what they're doing. This was a game where, again, you didn't have Hickman, you didn't have all of them. So does that really make that big of a difference? But offensively, you have to be better than that. The 3 and outs, it just felt like at times you were really, really disconnected, and at times, whenever you were moving the ball and doing things, because if I'm being totally honest, Javonte Barnes did not look bad out there to start the game. He was picking up yards and he was moving the chains. It was just the fact that time
they then switched to Sawchuck for no apparent reason, and he ran in. He couldn't make it. He couldn't avoid a guy, and he missed a hole just flat out. Didn't cut back. And then they didn't run the ball for the last 2 series. The running back didn't get the ball the last 2 series right before the half, when a change up at running back, at least to run clock and make sure Houston has no time to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just run the clock, run the ball a couple of times, and then do some things. It's just, I don't know what we're doing on offense. It doesn't seem to be that they have any go-to plays that they like. And maybe it's the personnel being upside down. Chris Logan Howland was in at left tackle because they had to move Tarquin to right because Jake Taylor couldn't play. Obviously, Bates is our 3rd team center, and he's starting. That's obvious at this point. If Troy Everett was healthy, he's probably our 4th team center at this point. If everyone's healthy, so I'm not knocking Bates, but that's just the facts. We can't seem to get anybody. Sexton made some plays at guard. There's no continuity on offense. The offensive line shuffling is obviously not helping, but Luttrell's play calling is just all over the place. And the wide receiver formation, the wide receiver groupings don't make sense, and they're not going with the hot hand at running back. And maybe we're going to hear the infamous "we're close," right? Mm-hmm. We're going to hear the infamous Lincoln Riley "we're close." I don't think they are.
Let's be some couch OCs, right? Let's talk about kind of what we're seeing, or what we would prefer that they do, right? I feel like the deep play is there at times, but not consistently. We're kind of getting back into, and I hate to, I'm just trying to give people like clear examples of what I'm talking about. But I don't want to get back into that Lincoln era of 3rd downs, 3rd and shorts being, hey, we're going to run, 4 different 15-yard routes. Just got to be patient, because Jackson Arnold isn't patient. You got to run a quick game for him, at least right now, to get him in a rhythm. That way he can do that. Another thing that has to happen as well, that I would like to see, is at least they go in there and correct this one thing with Jackson. Jackson has to place the ball better on those deep throws as well. That one interception was a clear example of that, but there were a couple of times where, hey, you could blame that on, because that's what the commentator was basically saying, was like, hey, that's more or less on who was that? Burks. That was more or less on Burks. But in my opinion, it's one of those things. Well, I mean, I think he gave up on the play because he's like, Jackson, what are you doing? Like, I know I was running that angle, but you got to be more patient at, right? I don't know. Regardless, there are a couple of balls during this game where you're like, hey, if you put some touch or if you actually lead your guy, you're probably fine. But Jackson has to do that as well, like placing the ball better on some of his throws. Second off, Jackson's pocket presence has to become better. People, believe it or not, and this will be the first time, this is a legendary moment here. I'm going to give Quinn Ewers a compliment. His pocket presence against Michigan, granted, Michigan is ass as well, but his pocket presence against Michigan today was pretty damn good. And that's what you would expect from a third-year quarterback, or however long he's been in college football, a veteran like that, somebody who just steps up and makes the play. And with Jackson Arnold, you see that from time to time, but he leaves the pocket way too early right now, way too early. He's getting happy feet, and when the pocket does collapse somewhat, he's not making himself – the guy can run. The guy can run, and it's just like, if you're decisive, make quick calls, probably going to come out on top if you trust in yourself. But right now, it just seems like he's trying to make things happen down the field passing wise, and that's just not working right now.
So the lowest point total at home against an unranked non-conference opponent since OU lost in 2005 to TCU. So we're going nearly 19 years to find as bad an offensive performance as that TCU game. And, that was an 05 team that had offensive line woes all year long. So I don't know. Maybe everybody's right. The replacement of the offensive line is just too much discoordination, the injuries, and the inability for guys like Garen Hatchett to go through spring. Losing Troy Everett in spring and getting Hickman, and Hickman now getting hurt. Picking up the wrong transfer tackles, not going with some different folks from the transfer portal at tackle is killing us. The lack of senior offensive linemen, homegrown 3 or 4 year offensive linemen. We don't have any 4-year offensive linemen who signed with OU. Yeah. They don't exist on the roster. Maybe all these things are just too much to catch up with a brand new starting quarterback who's going through some growing pains. Growing pains. We're not used to this growing pains thing at quarterback. We had it with Rattler, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, we'll just swap in Caleb Williams, and they sort of went away in 21. Although there were some bad offensive games in 21. That Baylor game, for many obvious reasons, was a bad game, and some of those other games that we won were pretty scrappy, crappy games in 21 in terms of offense, in terms of how the offense looked. So I don't know. It's the wide receiver group has just fallen off a cliff from what we thought it would be, and obviously, like offensive line, they can say, well, injuries are playing a role, but to quote Bob, at the end of the day, we need someone out there making plays, and that it's not happening. They're not connecting or trusting. I mean, Chris, I'm half thinking we need to go 2 back or 2 tight end until we have 3 wide receivers that prove that they belong on the field. Because at least with Nate Roberts and Sharp out there, we've got some different personnel looks and can run the ball a little bit more. Maybe on the outside, do some with the outside and do some play action to the tight end across the middle, and some of these other easier throws for Jackson to kind of get going, and then disguise some deep shots that are more play action variant. But I'm reaching at straws here, but I don't. Right now, we don't have 3 wide receivers that are playmakers.
Well, I would say I agree with you in part on that. I would say that having Sharp, having Nate Roberts or Jake Roberts, whatever. Yeah, Jake Roberts out there.
Jake, sorry, not Nate, not Jake.
Having those 2 out there, that's not a bad look, at least until we could call what your option A. You have 3 wide receivers that you feel can get the job done, or B, until you're finally ready to truly open up this playbook. Because we've seen bits and pieces of the playbook, but it just feels like the entire game has been scripted the entire time. It's just not working.
You think that's scripted? I don't see an overall cohesive play calling plan. Maybe there is. It doesn't look. I mean, sadly, Sark tore up Wink Martindale today in Ann Arbor with his scheming, how he used the tight end, especially. I mean, Michigan was overmatched because Sark called a great game plan, and Wink Martindale is obviously, I think he's going to struggle as a college defensive coordinator. Michigan, Michigan's defense just didn't look the same as last year. So I just don't see how he's getting. Guys don't appear to be open. Guys don't appear to be in, and there's no space. And somehow they're also stopping the run. Well, how is Houston doing all of those things when they couldn't do them last week against UNLV at all?
It's Willie Fritz, man. Willie Fritz.
Well, I mean, it can't just be Willie Fritz, right?
I just felt
they played a lot better. They played a lot better. And obviously offensive line, they just threw out the game plan they were using that got all the sacks and all that. We're still shuffling offensive linemen in and out. That's not helping. So I had an angry conversation with my brother before I jumped on this pod, my OU brother. And he was saying that this whole holding people out for later games is sending the wrong message to the team, that these teams are teams we can beat without our best effort or our best execution. Somehow that doesn't require the full OU Sooners. And somehow the team is absorbing that message. And that's what we saw today. I mean, Brent was a little surly on Wednesday, right? That's what the sense was. Maybe he saw this. He saw a bad practice week happening, and he kind of saw this. He saw this coming and didn't, and it's one of those things where the coaches sees it. They tell the team, this isn't, obviously the Houston film last week was terrible. And obviously the team, saw that. Did you hear anything on Kip Lewis's injury?
He came back in the game.
Okay. All right. I just missed that. I mean, the SEC guys were doing an okay job calling the game, but we were getting like nothing about personnel, people coming in and out.
Kip came back into the game, people, if you didn't see. They kind of started sandbagging us with you got to get better before conference play and all the rest of that stuff. It's like they forgot.
Well, but they weren't even giving us like lineups. They weren't talking about personnel.
Well, I mean, it's on the SEC network. The lower the grade or the lower the number on the ESPN totem pole, the worse the quality.
But still, it was bad. It was bad from that aspect.
Real quick, like March Jim said, first off, boomer. Second off, hit that like button, people. Let's hit that like button. Let's share, subscribe, do all those different things. 6'4" Chevy. I like the attitude. I definitely like the attitude, and I'm right there with you. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer. We've talked about the offense enough. We know that was really and truly the ugly part of this. Let's just move to the bad, really. But before we do that, let's read your comments. First, you said, Onk says Anderson will be back next week. 6'4" Chevy's talking about that. I get what you're talking about with Jackson and Burks, but still, Jackson, he still has to be better. I'm sorry. It's not necessarily just on Burks. It's on him too. Like, he's got to see that. I mean, he's got to do better on that. And mostly what I'm talking about is when he's playing pitch and catch with who is it? I'm sorry, with Brendan Thompson. Sorry, people, it's late. But when he's out there throwing to Brendan Thompson, a lot of the times Brendan Thompson has a step or two on his defender. You got to be able to throw it to lead him. That's what you got to do.
and he threw it over the wrong, on the one Thompson bomb. It was the wrong side. It was, I mean, it's, the defense, obviously, you held a team to, you held a team to 12 points. You got a safety. You scored 2 points. So basically the defense, net stats are 10. Big 12 refs are 7. And the OU offense is 7 points. So defensively, if we can get the offensive issues straightened out and support and be more consistent moving the ball, have more of a better game plan. The defense is there to win some football games. But
go ahead.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say before we deep dive into the defense, let's just talk about the one little bad thing that I had to point out. I have to point out. What the hell were we doing on special teams like that? I was like, Billy, what are y'all doing, man?
Well, and then Bowen took a football off the top of his helmet, the punt off the top of his helmet. I mean, we nearly fumbled 2 punts. It was nearly a disaster. This is what cost the Pigs their game in Stillwater, right? Fumble punt, OSU scored a touchdown. I get you, Chevy. I'd rather not be elite now. I'd rather be elite in November. But there's elite, and then there's what we were tonight, and then there's, it's just the lack of coherency, and it just seemed like the offense is just stuck in the mud. It's just got no, like, you spin your wheels and you get some movement, and then you're stuck again. And it's like.
I think I get where 6'4" Chevy is coming from.
I get it. I'd rather be
I'm the
deeper.
same way. I think the thing is that, and I said it last season a couple of times during the season, even during some of our wins, like the UCF game, right? UCF, SMU. That this felt like a SMU type of game as well. You just leave these games upset with the team because they failed to meet the expectation, right? I'm not asking you to go out there and blow this team out by 40, but I'm asking you to go out there and be physical, play your game, and have continuity on both sides of the ball to where you're playing complementary football. And that was my biggest issue tonight. No complementary football.
Yeah, if you'd scored 24 points and you'd put some drives together and things were closer to looking like, you're like, well, yeah, but it's, if you put it over, I mean, we just shut out in the second half. I mean, was it Robert Spears Jennings that let the tight end loose for the bomb? I think it was, right?
Yeah, it was him. He bid on whatever he saw in that backfield.
And he didn't double back, didn't roll over. The cornerback let that guy go, obviously thinking the safety was supposed to roll over. That's one big pass play. You're always one big pass play away from giving up a touchdown, in all football. Even the Founded Iowa defense gave up a bomb to State today where the guy got 15 yards behind everybody with no one around him, and Rocky Becht hit him. So it's just baffling, Chris, that we started with such a bad offensive series, and then we got bailed out by the punt fumble. And then they put together then they had a best series of the game where, for the score, the second touchdown, that was a good offensive series. And then they just stuck in the mud, missed the field. And obviously the missed field goal doesn't help. We have a good field goal kicking day, game one, and then game two, we needed that field goal could have been huge, right? That and the safety would have given OU a margin where a touchdown would have taken a touchdown to beat you. It's and obviously the safety pushed the margin beyond that. But for a while, I mean, you're just skating around where a field goal, there's a serious 3 possessions Houston could have had where they could have kicked a field goal to take in the lead. And I don't think our offense was going to score any points. Our offense didn't score any points. That INT set up the field goal and missed the field goal. So it's, the defense played well again, Big 12 refs.
And that's the good part.
Defense playing,
that's the good part.
Stutzman was just everywhere.
Yeah.
He was dominating. Did Gentry Williams come back in? I didn't see him after.
No, I didn't see him either.
I don't know that I think you're going to have to shut him down. That guy just sort of shoved him in his shoulder, and he kind of collapsed to the ground. Oh, you got lucky that ball was out of bounds. Woody Washington's pass interference on that interception. Yeah, okay.
That was soft. That was,
but it's Big 12 refs. So what do you expect, right? I mean, they give it and they take it away. So, for the most part, Houston threw the ball around a little bit. OU gave up over 300 yards of offense, but they gave up, 12 points. So really, 12 points should win most games comfortably for OU. But it's a great, good performance by the defense. Again, they also seemed a little flat at times. Mm-hmm. They gave up a couple, some plays they weren't giving up last week.
Yeah.
Just highlights how bad Temple's quarterback was last week. That Donovan Smith was a big upgrade in terms of that. Did you watch any of the Tulane game?
Yeah, I did watch the Tulane game. But before we get to that, I just want to come in. I think the defense played really well today. I would give them at worst a C+, at best a B-. That's just me trying to be transparent and be critical. At least I think that they were in that range of play. I felt like outside of the busted coverage and all the rest of that stuff, for the most part, you kept them in front of you. Tackling was good at times. The only takeaway that I have from the defense is just still we have to be able to have a better pass rush, and it can't just all come from our interior. We're going to have to get something on the edge. For some odd reason, Houston was doubling Danny and all, not Danny, but Ethan on that other side. But I mean, our linebacker core is so really, really, really freaking good that it makes up for that to have that extra tackler in there, or that extra guy that can go out there and move in space as well, just to help out with the DBs. But man, we got to be able to find our Mason Thomas. PJ has to figure something out. Like it's a whole bunch of things that need to happen in that DN room, but at the end of the day, you still feel good about where this team is headed defensively. You still feel like there's a lot of really, really good football still left for these guys to play.
Yeah, defensively, again, a lot of play. I mean, Kobe McKenzie was in there playing quite a bit.
You saw Kip Lewis, Kobe. Obviously, Danny was out there. You even saw Lewis Carter out there a whole bunch. And you did.
Omasigo was in there quite a bit because they were playing a bigger. It was less. It was less Dolby, more at times more Omasigo. So Dolby didn't quite have the same impact he had last week. And obviously, I think Fritz saw him on film and was like, "Well, this guy's flying all over the place. How do we neutralize him a little bit or keep him maybe off the field? We'll play some bigger formation and we'll just deal with Omasigo instead." So overall, the defense played really well. They played well enough that we should have been. Again, if Sharp catches that ball, you put that ball in the end zone. It's 21-3. Houston probably runs out, doesn't have a chance to put together a field goal possession, runs out the clock, and you're in a much stronger position. But you gave all the momentum to Houston. They got the field goal before half. They came out feeling hot. They got a couple of first downs on the OU offense and then put themselves in. Then we got the BS pass interference, interception wiped off the board, and then they threw a bomb and got a touchdown. So it's momentum is a strange force in football, and Houston grabbed momentum, and our offense did nothing to grab it back. That INT on our next possession, where we actually putting together a fairly decent drive, was just a killer. It's like, this is the last thing you need to do is throw a pick here. There are other, maybe you don't need to have Jackson forcing the ball downfield on that play and do some other stuff because some other stuff is working. So I don't know. It's baffling. Yeah. Baffling how momentum,
it can help you or it can kill you, because momentum definitely was killing our drives because they started believing, right?
Yeah, and obviously Jackson, like a video game quarterback, right? He started missing. So once your quarterback starts missing some passes, if you ever played like the old NCAA, I don't know, 25,
throw them out of rhythm. Yeah,
25's like that. But just when you start missing passes, it's just like, oh crap, my quarterback's gonna start missing everything, right? Because it just snowballs on you. So
I definitely want to point out, man. Shout out to Grayson Halton, man. Grayson Halton had himself a game again. People, Grayson Halton is honestly, numbers wise, I guess if you go off of that, he looks like our best defensive player, right, outside of Danny. But I mean, that's just really cool to see the interior D lineman really getting that push, and that's where most of the push is coming from. That's why it's so freaking hard to run on this team, and teams are having to move the ball through the air, or try to, at least against us. I thought the defense had a lot of bright spots, but I would just say, it just we got to get that pass rush. And at times, don't get me wrong, we had it, and we gave them so many different looks pre-snap that it really confused them on some plays or whatnot. But they didn't really start running it well until they started doing a little bit of, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a true stretch, but they kind of did a little bit of stretch plays or whatnot, just trying to at least do some outside run, I guess that's what you can call it, doing a little bit of outside run. But it's okay. I mean, and people, let's see. Let's go through this. OU line sucks. What's up, Student Cowboys? Mont P, he said, Arnold got to sit. I always thought he was overrated and that Hawkins is better. I know some people, that's going to be chatter throughout the week, but people, we gotta pump the brakes. We just won, and the thing is, the second game of the season, third game is going to be totally different, and we're about to get to that here in a second. The offense sucks because of the old line. Okay, so the Cowboys, yeah, and like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with any of you guys right now. Right now, in our current juncture where our feet are at now, things just don't look like I said, they don't meet the expectation. And point blank is simple. Did they win the game? Yes. That's all we really want right now. 2-0, we're fine. We seen this last year, and we seen how this team got hot, especially after the Texas game. Matter of fact, speaking of Texas, let me bring in, let's see. Quentin says 7-5 at best. Quentin, thank you for watching. Go back to your Texas channel. Enjoy your win. Enjoy your victory. That's great. Y'all played yet again another team that doesn't have a quarterback or has a young quarterback that is.
No, they don't have a quarterback.
Exactly. So you guys get the benefit of that again, but we all know what happened last year, but I don't think that's the way it works. You guys got beat. Sit on the sideline. Enjoy your little win today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. But yeah, there were a bunch of teams. That there were a bunch of teams that struggled today. We weren't the only ones.
There was lots of bad football. I mean, Notre Dame's cutting a $1.5 million check to Northern Illinois today.
Yeah.
And Northern Illinois has imperiled any hopes that Notre Dame has of going to the college football playoff, because they can't win a conference. So they have to be 11-1 now. They have to win all the rest of their games. They have no margin of error with a loss to Northern Illinois in their schedule. The Oklahoma State Arkansas game was baffling in terms of no one wanting to really win it.
I hear you on that. All I'll say right now about the Notre Dame game, because let's jump into Tulane. All I'll say about the Notre Dame game right now is this is the same exact thing. People, if you're not following the SEC Connect, I'm on there. Nick is on there. Steven is on there. You got Jay, and you also got Ty Hayes. So definitely watch us on the SEC Connect. But I said it there. I said, hey, look, this was a huge win for Notre Dame last week over Texas A&M. That was a great win for Marcus Freeman. I was definitely happy for him. But I said, hey, Marcus, you can't do the Notre Dame thing, which is what? Win a big game or lose a big game by a few points where everybody thinks you're really good, and then go out there and lay an egg against Northern Illinois. That just can't happen, but that's been the trend for the longest. That second game of the season is always the letdown game for Notre Dame. So it's going to be interesting to see how that story develops throughout the year. But kind of turning our attention to Tulane. At times, both teams look pedestrian, especially Kansas State, but K-State found a way. I thought that the Avery kid would be better than what he is, but I think he's still trying to figure some things out. But regardless, they ended up getting the win.
Did Tulane get the loss?
That's true. What I saw from Tulane today was a team that is not scared to one, run the ball. They like do a lot of inside run, but they also like spreading you out. They also like trying to get different key matchups or whatnot, and they bring that intensity. They're definitely a better all-around team. Football and basketball. I mean, not football and basketball. Excuse me. I was looking at this comment, but they're definitely a better team than Houston. But I mean, we're just gonna have to be ready, people, because that's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be another good game, another good test, another opportunity to see if we're going to make that improvement. You know?
Yeah, because week over week, if we roll out what we rolled today, we'll lose to Tulane at home. If we play as badly as we did in offense today, we'll lose to Tulane. So
yeah,
do starters coming back in the lineup make a difference? You'd like to think so. You'd like to think Hickman being at center instead of Bates would make a difference. You'd like to think Nick Anderson at wide receiver teamed with Deion Burks will make a difference for Jackson Arnold. Defensively, they're going to have to the Mensa kid could throw the ball around. He'll make mistakes, but he'll also make big plays.
Yeah.
So that's something that live by the sword, die by the sword. Obviously they've got the K-State film to show everyone. There should be no mistaking about who Tulane is in terms of their ability. I mean, they should have gone to overtime at K-State. I mean, that it was an offensive pass interference call. The refs were right. It was a terrible pick because his first touchdown and then they threw the flag. But the kid had a chance to put the ball in the end zone a couple of times. It was a little bit like Lamar Jackson on Thursday night. He missed a couple of wide open receivers, easy passes he could have made to make it. And then on fourth down, he threw he made a bad play on the later down. But they look, offensively they're the best offense coming into Norman. Defensively, K-State found some various things that worked. And as you said, Avery Johnson struggling. I didn't see. I thought K-State would be using him more in the run game than what I saw when I was watching the Tulane game. I was flashing back and forth between that and a couple other games, but they didn't seem to be running him that much.
You talking about Edwards or
Avery?
No, not necessarily. It seemed like the play they kind of went away from that because Tulane was. I mean, to me, it felt like they were really prepared for a lot of that. They felt like a really well-oiled machine. Like I said, these were going to be two really good games for us, Houston, and that simply because I kept telling people, I don't care how bad Houston is. I respect Willie Fritz. I've seen him up close and personal a couple of years ago in Norman, take us to the same lengths that he did just a few, about 30, 40 minutes ago, right? I've seen Willie Fritz in big moments against USCs and teams like that. I've seen him, basically go out there and dominate his conference as well. So I know what he is, but also I know that this Tulane team still has some remnants left from him, meaning that they still have players from that regime who are still as tough-nosed and all the rest of that. What do? You put them in a spread offense now, a true spread, and let them go to work. I mean, it's going to be interesting. But I think our defense will definitely be up for the challenge. I think it's just offensively, we got to make sure we put points on the board to keep that to help our defense. We got to play. Next week is all about playing complementary football. That is the key, and that should be the main focus for OU fans is getting there. No matter what Tulane is doing or whatever the case may be, playing complementary football. We need a full game of just complementary football. You do that, I think that makes people feel better about going into that Tennessee game as well.
And just some sharpness to the offense, right? Hopefully some things should look easy, right? Like, wow, that looked easy. That looked smooth. that was flowing. It just feel like we were canoeing upstream all game on offense, like one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back, and it was just maybe all the personnel changes and shuffling is hurting the continuity, and that's what we're really seeing. It's not Luttrell calling a weird game plan. It's just the continuity of personnel. Is
Luttrell doesn't call a bad game, but it's some of the quarterback stuff. I think Jackson needs to be better on the RPO, knowing when to give it, when to pull, and when to take it himself. But I like what 6'4" Chevy said right here. He said Jackson needs to relax. He's pressing right now. Just take what the defense gives you. And I think that's what the commentators were saying. I think that's what we're trying to say as well, is that Jackson just has to take a step back and actually, know like, hey, it's okay to scan the field. You have time. You have guys here that where you're picking up the 4 to 6 yards per play. Don't try to go for the home run hit right off the bat. You get what I'm saying? But
but just again, it's just I want the offense to look smooth. I want things to look easy, right? Like, look, we're taking what the defense is giving, and we're finding guys in space. We're just for lack of a better thing, Lebby had his issues, had some issues what Lebby was doing, but it was consistent, and it was generating more points than we saw tonight.
Yeah.
I guess technically year one on the road at Iowa State, we had kind of a clunk. West Virginia, we had kind of a clunker, and a couple of other places we had some clunky games. We didn't score much, but we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of playmakers. It just seems like we're struggling to get the ball into their hands consistently.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And we just have to do the opposite of that, people, next game. And I think we'll all feel better. But like I said, right now, biggest thing is we're 2-0. We're still in the hunt for everything that we want, right? We're still on the way to what we want to do. As you can see,
some teams don't look as good. Some teams look better. Auburn, the vaunted Jordan Hare snake pit of demons where no team walks in and walks out with a win.
Mm-hmm.
Cal beat Auburn today. Cal's not a great football team. Or at least
you definitely feel better about that. You saw
LSU still all over the place on defense.
You saw Alabama. Alabama struggled. Alabama, hell, it looked like we were playing the same game that they were playing for the most part. Now they pulled away, unlike us. But at the end of the day,
they have a veteran quarterback, and they have more returning. They're not shuffling out the offensive linemen like OU is.
Yeah.
It's now South Carolina looked a little better. Was a little that was a weird game to follow and understand. Dylan Stewart, their defensive end, looks like what we thought we were getting from PJ. They're 5-star freshman. Tennessee, the biggest problem right now is Tennessee looks like they're humming right now, and they're not struggling the way OU is struggling.
Yeah.
That's the number one problem right now. And obviously Texas and Texas, they went into the big house and they knocked Texas and they knocked Michigan and knocked Michigan out in the first half. A knockout punch in the first half, and that game was over. So that's the problem right now. The first half of our schedule, Tennessee looks better than advertised. Texas looks as good as everyone who we thought was overrating them says they are. But throw that game out on some level. But yeah, if you're an OU fan, this isn't what we needed This isn't what we needed heading towards a matchup with Tennessee, which is a huge fork in the road for our schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that game has a lot of storylines that are going to follow that game as well. So I just think that you just offensively I think we figure it out. I want to I tend to lean on that more of the optimistic side. I'm a really, really big optimist, but to be an optimistic person. I just I don't know how we get there. I don't know, but I feel like we're gonna get there. I mean, that's the thing. And as soon as Cowboys, they'll come in here with all the pessimistic stuff. Look, we've already been Debbie Downers for too long. I think right now we just gotta pull together and just understand it takes time, right? BV says it best: winning is hard, right? So I think that we made it too hard on ourselves tonight. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about, it's correctable. It's stuff that can be corrected. It's just that players have to go out there and do what they need to do. But right now, that's just not necessarily happening. But like I told you, at the very, very least, what the expectation should be for Tulane for any other game this year is that we at least, at the very minimum, meet the expectation. Regardless of the win tonight, and we can break down plays, do all the rest of that stuff, but there's no need to. We've already talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We've been on here for 50 minutes. We just have to play complimentary football for 60 minutes, and that's all that we got to do, literally.
And it'd be nice if we're not continually watching the pre-game workouts to figure out who the starting offensive line is.
Yes.
Right. It'd be nice. The starting offensive lines is our offensive line starters. We're not continually on injury watch to figure out who are we playing where. That would be nice.
That was one of my points coming into the season that I made a whole bunch, because when we're talking about continuity and all the rest of that stuff, especially for the old line, people, one thing that y'all have to remember is that Beaton Bowl's philosophy is it's not the most talented five. It's all about the best five that gel together, right? So we all know it around about that fourth or fifth game is usually when you have solidified starters, right? You know that you're solid on the offensive line as far as who is starting, who's going to be playing the majority of the snaps, right? So you got to kind of keep that in mind. So that tends to make me believe that, okay, well, Hickman is out, then they're missing a part of their wheel, right? They're missing a part of that wagon to make it go. So I don't know. I could be very wrong, but like I said, I tend to lean on the more of being more of an optimist than an optimistic person than just to be pessimistic about it. But like I said, I think we'll be all right. It's game 2, still a lot of kinks, little chinks in the armor, but we gotta just figure it out. Got to figure it out.
Yeah, it was a baffling result tonight. Lots of baffling results in college football today. Lots of bad quarterback play, bad O-line play, bad game management. And OU seemed to have caught whatever was spreading around college football tonight. I mean, if you're not Georgia playing Tennessee Tech or someone else, I think Dupuy is right. Everything's out of sync because we're shuffling too many people in and out, and we just don't have the group, the group clicking, at every piece. But we'll see. Jackson hopefully will be getting better, not worse, and these learning lessons will hopefully help him play better as the season goes on, and we'll start getting him a little more. We'll start seeing more of the explosive plays and the elite plays than we're just stuck in the mud and can't seem to quite get things going. But Seth, please do not start the Tulane game with a jet sweep to Deion Burks, please. Please don't. Please. Dude, I don't mind the play, but it can't be play 1 again. Let's do some other things. Again, I do think, Chris, I'd like to see some more double tight end formation stuff while the wide receiver room is getting itself back in shape, because the tight ends look like they're playing better. No. It gives us better running game options.
And you may need to be in heavy personnel just to be able to run the ball.
And force the run, and also give Jackson time and make him a little more deliberate about what he's doing for a little ball, rather than the 5 wide, throw the ball all over the field stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, people, we'll be on here for about 54 minutes. Mr. Mason, I don't know if you're busy tomorrow, but people, this is kind of what I'm going to be doing here is it's kind of hard to do a pod, like a live pod on Thursday, especially with all these games and everything going on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm trying to do an instant pod after every game that I can. Definitely gonna go to the Texas game, but do a live pod right after the game, and then probably double back on Sunday when everything has. I've given myself time. I've been away. I've been able to watch the game one more time just to be able to come back and give you guys kind of an actual breakdown of kind of stuff that we saw. So, Mr. Mason, I'm not sure if you're busy tomorrow, but would love to have you on tomorrow if we could find some time to just kind of just talk about this. This is our raw reaction, people. But now that once we have some time to digest it, we'll be able to come back and really give you guys more. So definitely let me know. So
definitely. And also, Chris, this is a big, now that kids were back on campus.
Yeah.
OU had a bunch of kids on campus. It was a bigger recruiting weekend than I anticipated. So definitely some players on campus that are worth mentioning if you want to throw down some recruiting midweek.
All right. So we'll be talking about that, and we got a bunch of topics to talk about. So we'll break down everything tomorrow for sure, guys. It is 11:20. It's time to go to sleep. Got to let this one settle for a little bit. Like I said, let's just all watch. Let's just all watch this game one more time. Maybe just the highlight, right? The condensed version. And we'll figure it out. But with that being said, Mr. Mason, tell everybody where they can find your content at.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I'm CM_Sooners360. You'll get links to my podcasts, links to my Patreon content, and links to my YouTube content if you can just follow me on Twitter and X. Otherwise, go to YouTube and just throw in Sooners360. You'll find my channel and you'll find my content.
All right. That being said, people, we're out. And this